Hello, good afternoon, whatever time of day, and welcome to the Sunday night breakdown. Even when we promise you it's going to be on a Sunday, we're doing it on a Monday. We hadn't, we
Scheduling.
hadn't, we hadn't clocked there were three games at the same time, and we wouldn't be able to give them their full justice. Although there was one of them that I'd rather not give its full
Yeah.
justice, but there you go.
Well, I think
Uh,
we'll give it its full justice.
we'll
Or
give it its full justice. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe not too much on the play-by-play.
yeah,
Um, Dave, obviously now we have to start with anything to declare, any gifts that you need to let the audience know you've received,
nothing
or
at all. Nothing at
nothing
all.
at all. So
I think
I've
I'm
got
still.
I've
Oh,
got some cookies here that Jackie sent me, and you're gonna like this, Dave. Look at this. Can you? I've got this
oh,
lovely hand drawn Merry Christmas card.
why has it got
Wishing
spiders on the front?
it's basketball
Oh,
player. It's
sorry.
basketballs. It's
Oh, sorry.
basketball.
I thought it was spiders. Sorry.
Yeah, and it says "Merry Christmas, Happy New Year" from Felicity and Josie. And Dave, you're going to love this.
Oh
A
no.
little key ring, Dave. But
Yeah.
hang on, I've got to
Another key. More product
make sure
placement.
it's in the. But look at the product placement.
Oh,
Can you
hey,
see? It
PNS.
says
Yeah,
it
well,
has a basketball and it says SNB.
it's outstanding.
That is outstanding work, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I'm almost enthused. Um,
See, I think the audience is now just doing this to wind you up, Dave.
yeah, and
I think
well,
they're showering me with gifts just to wind you up.
yeah, I'm kind of a bit of a humbug, so and Grinch and that type of stuff. But oh no, look, whatever floats your boat,
Well, it's now we've now got advertising here. We can now wave this about as our
Yeah,
advertising.
that is. I
Excellent.
mean, are we reaching cult status yet? Is that-
I think so. Yes, I think we are.
Oh my goodness,
So I have nothing further to declare, Your Honour.
I've got nothing at all. So
Oh, shame.
I think I scared the kids off with my Christmas jumper on Friday.
Yeah, you look like you had a haircut as well, Dave. Did
Yeah,
you
well,
spruce yourself up specially?
it's I've been taking some tips, But I did
Okay.
actually have a haircut. Yeah, the mullet was not suitable for even the slightest glimpse of TV coverage.
Let's get into the action then, shall
Yeah,
we?
see.
Start on Wednesday night. London Lions 80, Sheffield Sharks 77. Matthews didn't play in this one, having got some minutes in the cup, presumably a reoccurrence of, was it hamstring he had? I can't remember now.
Yeah.
London, I think this was the first time they were at full strength this year, I think. It was notable that none of the youngsters played in this game, that's for sure. Lions led early, seven of the first 9 points, and had an 11-point lead at the end of the first quarter. Started really well.
Yeah, I thought this was a kind of a context game. Sheffield had a couple of comfortable wins. If you remember, coming off.
Mm.
I gave you a little warning not to take the home games against, was it Manchester and Surrey too seriously, or
Caledonian, sorry.
Caledonia and Surrey. And I don't think they did, but I think they were rust. They were a little bit rusty and a little bit comfortable. And London are a different defensive prospect to either Caledonia or Surrey.
Mm.
They have length, they have competitiveness, and they are tough. There's no
Mm.
question. Their kind of identity has morphed from last year being kind of the old smiling, old jinking Harlem Globetrotters,
Mm.
to now that now they've Coach Bozic has turned them into kind of a muscle machine with Adebayo and Sandy, who are both really improving on a game by game basis, and playing aggressively defensively. Then you add in Rice Smart and there's Hadzibejevic's size and shot blocking, and Brisker being pesky, and then they bring a guy in and in this game they brought Soko, who had one of his games, one of his
Mm.
games, off the bench, and Dallaire off the bench. So there's a lot of size, a lot of muscle, and I think that's going to be a difficult um, transition for some teams in the SLB when they come to play London, having played other teams who are playing slightly different. And I thought that was the case for Sheffield. They never really got into any form of rhythm early in the game with their offense. Nixon in particular, from memory, he was over 6, over 7 in the
Mm.
first half. Had some decent looks, but again, it's a bit different shooting over Sandy or Adebayo to shooting over Cam Gooden
Mm.
or Nedas, which was the game against Surrey. So, and on top of that, it's the copper box, and they'll have driven down there on the night, and the copper box is not. I don't care what people say, is not an easy place just to get off the bus and shoot because of the depth perception, because how far the crowd is back. Even though it's a bit better now because they're on the inside
Mm,
behind the basket. It's still not an easy place. So they missed a ton of shots in the game, and London outworked them and basically outplayed them for about 2.5 quarters before
mm.
Sheffield, quite encouragingly for them, came back into it.
It was 39-22 midway through the second quarter. Clay and Ocharobia helped Sheffield to an 11-2 finish, so there was seven down at half time. Lions remained in front, though, and it was a 10-2 break, actually, around the final quarter break by Sheffield that got them into what was basically their first lead of the game. I think they scored the first basket or something. 66-67 with just under a quarter to go.
I thought those Ocharobia minutes before half time were really important
Mm,
because he gave them some scoring inside, 3 or 4 times. And basically, once if you're not seeing the ball go through the hoop, if your guards aren't getting the ball to go through the hoop, then if your bigs can give you a little bit, it buys the guards a bit of time
mm,
to kind of get into a rhythm and get to the position whereby the ball's moving a bit better and they're more comfortable. So I thought he's been in and out of the lineup a bit, but I thought he was really good in this game, and it was probably a good matchup for him with some of them. Um, oh, Soko was really good as well. I've said that already. I thought he
mm.
was really aggressive, really all over the place,
Diving all over the floor.
diving all over the
Mm,
floor and then making shots and attacking. Really a real attack mode. And he is kind of an attack mode player. It's almost if his mind is right, then bang,
mm,
he's attacking and he's just alone. And he was a France Pro A player, not
mm.
like 3 years ago, wasn't he, or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Obi Soko was a GB player. He was there and obviously didn't play last year to help you guys out and he's now getting back into it. But if they get anything more like that from him, they're going to win a lot of games.
Mm,
But yeah, Sheffield just gradually, they're a solid team. They move the ball well. They have shooters basically now in every position apart from centre and sometimes even in centre. And they're good enough not to panic. So I thought that was kind of encouraging for them. I don't think they could have played a worse kind of 3 quarters and they were still kind of tied with London.
mm. Lions had a 9-0 run to get back up seven with three to go. Let's go through the last few plays. 140 to go. Sharks with a turnover. Rye dunked it.
Mm.
79-73. 131 to go. Clay to the rim. He was fouled. Made two free throws. 79-75. 110 to go. Nixon with the steal and the run back, but under heavy pressure, he wasn't able to convert that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it's one of them.
Yeah,
If
it's one of them that when it doesn't go in, you think, oh, maybe just slow it down. But when you're taking it to the basket, you think you might get an M1.
yeah,
Rye into the key and he misses 47 seconds to go. Chapman finds Clay cutting to the rim 79-77. Rye misses on the buzzer of the shot clock, but Delaire gets an offensive rebound. He's fouled. He goes 1 for 2 from the free throw line. Chapman, good look for three, misses it. Groves with the offensive rebound out to Clay, who hit the three, and that was after the buzzer. And to be fair, the ref had waved it off before it had even gone back in. And if you wind it back, he's actually catching the ball as the
light goes
yeah.
on. Yeah, it was an easy one. Good job, it was an easy one, wasn't it? Can you
Yeah,
imagine?
yeah.
Um, I thought Dallaire made some big plays down the stretch, actually, just even a bit before that game, and that offensive rebound was the biggest play in the game
Mm,
because 79-77, and he doesn't get that. Sheffield can go down the other end and pinch it.
mm,
But the size that they have. The interchangeable size out there with Dallaire, who can play the 4 or the 5, Hadji Begovic giving them good minutes now and looking more and more solid every game. Then you look at Soko, then you have your kind of your Bruce brothers who are Sandy and Adebayo. There's a lot of
mm,
size there. They're playing hard the whole time. And that does wear teams down. And Sheffield are kind of playing a little bit smaller, players in the middle, but they're probably better when they've got Groves at the 4 or even at the 5 at times. And I thought they just kind of wore them down eventually with the physicality. Sheffield very skilled players though. Yeah, the shot at the end. Yeah, well, Drew asked us about it on the commentary on Friday. I mean, that has to be checkable, even though it wasn't, even though
yeah.
it was way off,
It
that's
would have
fine.
been a quick check, but
It would
yeah.
have been, even they don't have to check that one because
Mm,
the red light on the basket, it wasn't close. I get that. But if it was 3/4 of a second earlier,
mm,
then and you've got a photograph with the ball on his fingertip when the light's on red,
mm,
it's not something any ref should be made to guess at, and
mm,
it is effectively a guess when it gets closer. So it can't be hard. Just so somebody to write in a rule, even now, to write in a rule saying for end of game or end of quarter situations, the referees are allowed to look at the TV feed.
Mm, mm,
And if the answer and if they don't have an answer, it stays with whatever they thought it was.
yeah.
They're allowed to look at it. And no time is lost off the game. You won't have me whinging about TV timeouts.
Mm,
You won't have anything going wrong other than the coaches knowing that the right call's being made.
yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Rye 16.7 assists, Hadzi, Begovic, and Soko both had 14. Clay 16.7 rebounds. Groves was 7 of 8 shooting for 16 points and 8 rebounds, and Chapman was 13 points and 9 assists.
Yeah, I mean, it's that you think that you'd be surprised if they went two of the top four at the end.
Oh
I
yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I mean, and the I mean, and you're seeing that now. Well, the top two are top three now, and Sheffield 6-3 and London 7-2. So what a brave prediction that one is
Mm,
for us. But even now, there's a little bit to both of those teams that is there's a selling point to each of those
mm,
teams, which
mm,
by an identity to each of them, whereby you think that's going to help you win some fairly routine games down the line. So London had one on Sunday.
mm.
Um, and the key to being in the top four is winning routine games.
Yeah, is having routine games.
Having routine games,
Yeah,
that's what I
yeah,
mean, yeah.
yeah,
And not
yeah,
having to win every game by
yeah,
three.
yeah.
So yeah, you'll be surprised. So that was kind of a big game
Mm,
for for both teams, but they play each other four times, so
mm.
nothing's too big at this point.
Oh, although London are 2-0 now,
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah.
with a plus 20 something as well.
Yeah.
Let's go to Friday night. Surrey 89 is 72. Leicester Riders 89. Leicester Riders are the only ones on brand here. They've scored 89 against the 89ers home and away. Uh, so Thompson going off inside at the offensive end. He then blocks a Delican, which brings to an end that run of 20 shots in a row without a miss. Leicester were 10-2 up after 4 minutes.
It's a block shot a miss. I never knew that. The block shot
If it's
counts as a miss.
blocked, it's yeah, you go 0 for 1, yeah.
All right, okay. Um, oh yeah, well, this is kind of the Thompson show. This is
Mm,
game. I mean, my if he maintains his mentality and his health, and he could earn a lot of money playing basketball, I think,
mm,
Charles Thompson, because um, whilst he isn't a kind of a prepossessingly big, my suspicion is his wingspan is quite big for his size,
mm,
which is a big thing. Wingspans as big as is more important, is almost more important than physical size. His hands are really good. His mentality is really good insofar as he's not interested in getting involved in all the the, the, the rubbishy little kind of grabbing and hold,
shenanigans, yeah.
pushing and shenanigans and ego stuff. And I'm
The
giving you.
the sort of thing that his teammate got involved
Well,
in
yeah, well,
in the
yeah,
fourth
exactly. I
quarter.
mean, you don't need to get him. You don't need to do that if you're able to impose your will on a game in different ways.
Mm,
You know, and I thought in this game he did, and he did it on in their screen roll defense is a lot of it's so much better because it allows all the other guys to stay solid.
mm,
They don't have to run and help, and they can say, okay, you score over him.
mm,
And the advantage he has is because he has a quick second jump, he can rebound the ball as well. So he
mm,
can challenge and then turn and rebound. You don't ever get the feeling that his feet are in clay. So it's
mm,
what I said about Defoe last year, the nimble big guy. And if you're nimble and you're that size, then it's better than having a 7 foot kind of,
yeah,
stanchion in the middle of the
conglomerate.
court.
Yeah.
You've got to be 6'9" and nimble is so much better. So, I mean, he's approaching kind of Sharma-like territory in relation to
Mm,
blocking shots. But Sharma was 7'4".
mm,
Thompson 6'8", 6'9". So he's doing that on length and on doing that on timing.
mm.
And that really does make a difference. So yeah, and they're getting a little bit more confident throwing in the ball as well.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
you know, which is kind of a good thing, kind of a bad thing. You want them to have the ball because you want to keep playing hard. That's still a really efficient team on the perimeter, though. You
Mm,
know, so they maybe have to work on, and teams are going to probably say, yeah, okay, we'll take everybody else away and let him go one on one, and we don't think you're as likely to beat us like that. But Surrey, this game, I just thought that it was a bit meh.
yeah, I've written down they never looked like losing after that.
Yeah, it was a bit meh. They just a little bit out kind of executed at every position, I thought.
Mm,
Just about every position. Unless they didn't shoot the ball great, unless they didn't play great. But that was the type of routine win that I was talking about.
Mm,
Top four team. You go to somewhere like Surrey, who've won games there. They have talented players. They're still one import short. They've not replaced Brown at the moment. Still a little bit short on the wing, but you basically shut them down.
mm.
And that's what they did. And there wasn't really much more watching. I watched obviously back after the Friday night um, game at Newcastle, and there wasn't really much more to it than that.
No, the only other thing I noted was a 9-0 run from Surrey when they were 60-40 down, but lasted a quarter time out and had 7 points in a row back. Oh, and also we touched on it. There was a bit of a melee,
Oh yes, of
and
course,
and
yeah.
and I was watching on Synergy, and Synergy cuts out all the rubbish, so
Uh,
I had to go back to the zone to watch this. I still couldn't really tell what it was all about, but Shelton got an unsportsmanlike, and
well,
it
the
looked
little bit,
fully deserved from what I could see.
well, he got a little. I think he got a little bit lucky because there's a little camera angle behind the basket, from behind the basket, where you kind of see him clip. I think is it Gooden? You kind of see him reach
Mm,
over and just kind of clip Gooden on the back of the head.
mm,
It's like a little, like a slap. I don't think it was more than that, but and I don't think that's what he got the technical for. What the unsportsmanlike for. He got that for what happened afterwards, which I think the
yeah,
ref saw.
yeah,
But just look, I think if it's again, that's a replay point, if
yeah.
you replay that, I think he got a bit lucky. I think he could have ended
Yeah.
up. Again. And he's got to stop this stuff.
Mm,
It's getting, yeah, they need. I get you want to be an emotional leader, and
mm,
that's kind of the role he fills on that team, which is fine. Get up and gives them, they're very methodical team, and he comes in, he provides a little bit of energetic chaos. That's
yeah,
great. And
yeah,
he
yeah.
does that for the 6 or 7 minutes that, Thompson's resting, and he does it in the second half as well. And you're a bit of, kind of we're here, and you're doing the enforcement stuff. But you can't afford the daft goaltends. You can't
Mm,
afford, if you want to win games and win championships, sorry, you can't afford the daft goaltends. You can't afford the silly technicals. And you can't avoid the posturing. There's
mm,
a time it has to stop, and he doesn't need to do stuff like that to get involved. And the problem is, it's too often him now.
mm. Because the other thing about it is, I don't even know what started it. It
No,
wasn't, there
nothing.
wasn't, there was nothing happening before that. So there wasn't anything, it wasn't
Yeah,
obvious as to where it came from even.
yeah. It's almost like, oh look, it was almost like a reminder I'm here. And maybe
Yeah,
it's said something. Who knows? I mean,
yeah,
you've been there. You don't. It's tough to judge because you're not in the middle. You
yeah,
don't.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But you can't. Whatever you
But
can.
what I mean
You
is, there
want.
wasn't a play where somebody fouls somebody or somebody pushes
Yeah.
somebody off the ball or
Exactly.
whatever.
But
There
do what
wasn't
you want, but
an
don't draw
obvious
the referee's
catalyst.
attention to it.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the bottom line. You do as much as you want. Nothing wrong with quote marks, dark arts, or talking to
mm,
people, communicating with
mm,
people. Because there's a language on the court that us fans and even coaches don't really know about
mm,
the way players communicate with each other. But if the ref's attention is drawn to it, then and you're the one who keeps getting
mm,
whistled, then you got a problem.
mm,
And again, the other thing is, in a game you're winning comfortably, the last thing you want as a coach
mm.
is to light a fire in somebody.
Yeah, yeah,
You don't know, Gooden might think, well, I'm going, might be
yeah,
right,
yeah,
okay, and goes off and makes four threes in 5 minutes.
yeah, yeah.
When you're on the road, you're up 15 in the fourth quarter, you're just wanting the clock to tick.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it before. I remember a game at Worthing Leisure Centre where Colin Irish got upset because the referees were taking too long to make a decision on something, and he just got more and more fuming. Eventually, the play got back underway. He just went bang, 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 like four
Yeah,
threes in a row. It was like,
yeah,
if the referees had made a quicker call, he probably wouldn't have done that.
it's amazing what it takes to fire up.
Yeah, yeah.
Just be a little slight. So yeah, but no, it's a solid win for Leicester, and at this point, they're rolling.
Mm.
So in the league, they're rolling.
James, 22.7 of 11 shooting. Adelican, 18.8 rebounds. Ray, 14.7 an assist. Thompson, 18.7 rebounds, 4 blocks. Jackson, 17. Hunter, 14 points and 6
I mean, it's
assists.
interesting that, isn't it? Because you've got Surrey there with 40 points from the two big guys.
Mm.
And how many did they have in the game? 70 something? I think
72.
72. So they only got 32 points from their guards and wings.
Mm.
Delican and James are basically playing the four and the five for two-thirds of the game
Mm.
in total. And they've not managed to create anything for their guards, and the guards haven't been able to get going at all. And that has to be credit to Leicester's defense, but also, they can't win like that.
Mm.
Your guards are going to have to score more, particularly when you've got little guards who are scoring guards.
Mm.
Ray, Lawrence, and Gooden. They're gonna have to, Leicester hold those guys to 30, less than 30 points, you're winning every single
Mm.
time.
Newcastle Eagles 80. This is a cup game, by the way. Newcastle Eagles 87, Caledonia Gladiators 90. Dave, you were back on comms, a little different
Ah,
from our old COVID playoff experience of a few
yeah,
years back. You were courtside, you had a Christmas jumper on and everything.
yeah, I was born to it, Dan. Man, I born. That was fun, actually. I quite enjoyed it. It's different because you get more time here to reflect on stuff when you're talking about stuff after games.
Yeah, yeah,
Like we are now, you get more time to reflect. This is why this happened, this might happen. To do it whilst you're also kind of describing what's going on as
yeah,
well, you know, isn't straightforward. So it's kind of having enough time to fit in the kind of the combining of what's happening and then hopefully a little bit of why it's happening.
yeah, yeah,
I was all about kind of, and there's times I even slipped into like commentary, like, six
yeah.
point game, minutes to go, that type of thing, because that's
I
the
would
way,
never have let you do that,
I
Dave.
know you
I'd have
would,
been giving you a nudge.
I
Laska's
know
too
that
soft on
he
you.
is too soft, but that's just the way my mind kind of twists
Yeah,
because you're looking at the game
yeah.
and that's the kind of computation. I don't care what the score is.
Mm,
The numbers don't matter. It's just the
mm,
difference, the time, the fouls.
mm,
That's the way you think when you're on the bench as opposed to
mm,
on the mic. And so yeah, I kind of dropped into that a couple of times and tried to
mm.
stay away from it. But overall, absolutely, yeah, it was good, and I hope anyway. I've been told by my sister I dropped into a bit of an American twang, so I need to.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, she
They
told
all
me
say that. Some of that's linguistics when you're talking about offense and defense
then,
rather than
yeah, that
attacking
might be true. Yeah,
defense.
and of course the fact that I've got my 50-year-old, 49-year-old sister who doesn't really know much about basketball, watching
Yeah.
the whole game just to listen to what I say is good for my ego. So yeah, no, it was fun, and at least we got a proper game.
Yeah, yeah, it's a
It was,
proper
it was a
game.
fun game. I mean, quiet. It was a fun game because of the so much that was going on with it. I
Yeah.
mean, utterly unpredictable basketball game.
So Whelan off the bench for only the third time in his career, twice this season against Newcastle and once last year against Cheshire. No Ali Hodgic and Onwes and or Jimenez as well for the Gladiators.
Yeah,
And
I'm pretty sure that helped them in this game. I don't see it helped them long term, but it crystallized their rotations.
mm,
It crystallized the guys who were going to have the basketball. It meant he could start the three new Americans without any kind of fear of
mm,
some things around. And those three new Americans meant that they knew that they would have the basketball, so they get a chance to play. And ended up shooting 41 out of the 62 shots that they shot.
and I think it was probably also conducive to the fact that I saw probably two contenders for the worst shot
Shot.
selection I've ever seen in a game. 3 minutes in, and then I think it was 3 minutes into the third quarter. There
It
was
was
another.
Dunbar in the third quarter off the dribble off the
Yeah,
backboard from 26 feet, and then Wilson Frame, who hadn't touched the ball, and just kind of jogged down the court and jacked one up right in front
yeah,
of after about 3 minutes of the game as well. That's the way they're going to play.
yeah, yeah,
The problem for Newcastle in this game was that they had no appropriate fear of the way they were playing.
yeah.
They didn't. They weren't prepared. They weren't prepared for the game in
Mm,
reality, or whether they were looking at Fry. I don't know if they watched the video of Caledonia and Manchester beating them by 20 and
mm,
thought, well, you got nothing to worry about here. But I think mentally Newcastle weren't ready to defend Caledonia. They gave up 16 threes in the game, which
mm,
against that level of shot selection is a bit of an embarrassment, to be honest,
mm,
because all you've got to do is defend them properly with discipline and with an idea of what they're going to do, and they will shoot bad shots.
mm.
And they'll not shoot 50% from three.
Yeah,
And Newcastle didn't. Um, and even from the first kind of play of the game, we talked about on the comms, getting easy ones in transition, 2-on-1 layups in transition. The Caledonia guys got comfortable,
mm,
and then they played hard, to be fair.
mm,
They got comfortable, they played hard. Kane in the first half really showed some nice touches and nice explosions and decision making, but their defense held Newcastle to 31 in the first half.
mm,
I'm not sure if it was their defense. I'm not sure if it was Newcastle holding Newcastle to 31.
mm.
But
I think it
overall,
was
dominated
33 at halftime.
33.
Dunbar and Wilson Frame had 6 and 8 as they went 16-6 ahead in the first quarter. They stayed ahead, but not by loads, and then had a 13-1 finish to the second quarter. And I think it was 30. I've got written down
Yeah, you're
33-47 at
probably right.
halftime.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it was reminiscent of the game Newcastle played against Manchester after they qualified in the trophy phase, and Manchester hadn't won a game, and they came out in the first half, and Newcastle came out in the first half just dead,
Mm,
and we're down 16 at half time, and nearly got back.
mm.
Even though it was a meaningless game, that was the IZM World Wave game.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, it was the same type, it had the same type of vibe. You know, we don't think these guys are very good, therefore we're going to be, you know, we're going to play at this pace. And the reality is, Newcastle aren't good enough to play like that.
mm.
They have to be hard. They have to be playing hard every possession. I don't think they were in the first half. The ball wasn't moving mentally. The decision making wasn't there. And Caledonia made shots, but they made shots that you'd expect them to take.
The Eagles started 22-10 in the third quarter to get it back to 5 points, 55-60. But Caledonia sort of stayed at that sort of margin until midway through the fourth quarter. It was sort of 5 to 7 points. And
Yeah, when
then,
Newcastle made a ton of threes in the third quarter, 5 or 5 from the 3 point line. Okoro came out with a point to prove, and then Long made a couple as well. But they're very difficult to give professional basketball players, good players, who are in comfortable rhythm, a 15-point lead.
mm,
Because as you've said before, you know you come back, but sometimes you can't get over the hump.
mm,
And this was one of these games where the Eagles came back, but coming back just killed them because Okoro ended up playing 36 minutes, having to play the whole second half. I think Ward Hibbert played the whole second half
mm,
as they were kind of clawing and scratching their way back in. Um, you know, and a message, and you know, obviously Darius as well played exceptionally well. Came in season high 16.7 of 9, played some defense plus 17 in the game, but all the while, you know, there's still breakdowns. Pat Whelan's getting left open in transition on a three, and no one's running to him. Um, Wilson Frame and Malik Dunbar's comfortable. He's in a rhythm. He's enjoying himself,
mm,
and he's a big kid. I think he's a big kid. He enjoys himself playing.
mm, mm,
You know, when he got comfortable, he was like, "This is fun. Okay, we're going at them." And there was no. There was a team that had played a team that had lost, that had beaten them 4 times already.
yeah, yeah,
There's no
yeah.
appropriate fear at all. And they didn't.
So,
Apart from Defoe, no one took and Water, but no one took the challenge until Coro in the second half.
so Eagles then had a 7-0 run. 3:20 to go. Dunbar fouled out. 2:55 to go. Eagles had their first lead at 85-84. Looked like they might possibly steal it at that point. Let's go through the last few plays. 1:54 to go. Knight going for an offensive rebound. Fouls Whelan.
Really bad foul.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's okay. He's hustling on the baseline. He got one previously, but you know, you can't foul somebody at that point. You know,
Mm.
you can't give Pat Whelan 2 free points. You know, again, mental mistake.
85-86 what he makes those. Knight inside misses. Barnes heaves it on a shot clock buzzer. Oki Raffle with the offensive rebound, but then he misses a 15-footer on the shot clock buzzer. So there's 51 seconds left, and it's still a 1 point Caledonia lead. Alan Ikens misses at the rim.
Well,
Uh,
just on that, the last three possessions, about 2 minutes to go, they changed to a zone.
mm,
Brave, incredibly brave thing to do. But
mm,
then again, Newcastle had scored 56 points or 55 points in the half by that point.
yeah, yeah.
No, so you got to do something. Certainly, the first possession with Knight, it befuddled them. The second possession with Alan Aikens, he got a left hand, he got a layup. Really, that's a layup that he's
Mm,
been in all season. He went with his left hand a little bit as opposed to finishing the way he normally does, but he just blew it.
mm. 16.1 seconds. Dave, you called it before it happened. Wilson frame
Absolutely.
for three.
I'm amazed it's not being clipped. You know, I'm surprised I'm not going around the world. You know, yeah. Again, that's kind of the coaching thing coming back in.
Mm,
You know, because if I'm on the bench, then if I've got a guy in front of me who's guarding the ball, I'm communicating. He's shooting it. He's shooting it. He's shooting it. Why do I know that? Because I know that you know you recognize the gait,
mm,
the way that he's walking. You've seen it already. The left side of the floor. He prefers to shoot from the left side of the floor. You can see. You know when a player. There were certain players I could always tell the moment they crossed half court whether they were going to shoot the ball.
mm,
And it comes from years of watching Russ Saunders.
mm. That was every time he crossed half court.
No, in certain seasons there was, but there was a look, there was a little change in his. You could see once you got to watch him on a game by game basis, day by day,
Yeah.
you could see the little look, the little change in his kind of focus and his gait, even at the
Mm,
halfway line, where he's deciding 4 or 5 steps before he shoots it. I'm going here. I'm going to get my shot off, and
mm,
I kind of saw that in Wilson frame. Obviously, it could have been rubbish,
mm,
so it was probably a nonsense thing to guess, but that's what it was. And unfortunately, at this point, Okoro was done in this game. He was tired. He played though. He was being asked to be Newcastle's energy guy and Newcastle's workhorse,
mm,
which is two very different things. And he'd gone for 20, he scored 21 points in the second half or something
mm,
like that, because he only had two or three at half time. And he was defending, he played the whole 20 minutes. And in the possession before, if you remember, he tried to foul somebody twice when he
mm.
should have.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because you could just I could see his meant he was frying, and for whatever reason he's decided to switch that at the last minute. Now it was an unnecessary switch because there wasn't really a screen.
No.
He just kind of volunteered to go behind it. Well, that leaves Defoe's playing him as if a car is going to go over the screen
Mm,
and follow him from behind. So Defoe's giving him a bit of runway. Well, as soon as the switch is there, he's pulling up and shooting it. Why?
yeah.
It's his shot. And that's a shot he knocks down, and that's a shot that he's probably made a career in the G League on, and he's comfortable with. And so at that point, little mistakes, little errors, know your personnel, know what's going to happen, and also lock into exactly what it is that you're meant to be doing. Because the whole second half, Newcastle had impacted Wilson for him by icing the screen and roll, basically not allowing him that pocket to shoot the ball and
Mm,
making him into a passer. And he's not as good as a passer as he is as a shooter. So they didn't do any of that. And to be fair, Wilson Frame, he knocked the shot down, and
mm,
that's what he's meant to do. And there are some. I think I called it game shot. That was even if Newcastle can kind of fight their way back, even if it can go a little bit wrong, you don't generally see teams lose after that. Is a true dagger.
mm.
Not the shot that Azania called 2 weeks ago at Cheshire to put Bristol up 28. She said it was a dagger. That is a proper dagger.
Mm.
Okay, so you can correct her on the dagger usage.
Okay.
Um, so yeah,
So that was 85-89. Long tipped in Ward Hibbert missed three to make it 87-89 with 11 seconds to go. Wilson Frame was then fouled. He only went 1 for 2.
yeah,
So 8 seconds to go, 8.7 seconds to go, 87-90. Timeout, no advance, which
yeah,
which seemed interesting in that situation. Feels
yeah. It
like a
was.
guaranteed advance in that situation.
Depends. I'm not actually going to. The reason it depends is like what you're going to be able to get. Can you get a three? If it's a two, it's a guaranteed advance,
Mm.
I think, because you're attacking. For a three, you're going off the half court. Now there's an argument, and they actually got a good shot. There's an
Yeah,
argument
yeah.
which is, it's easier to get the three off the run, as
Mm.
it, off the move. And clearly, I imagine you say it to Mike, you say it to a corridor, do you want the ball in the backcourt to set yourself up, i.e. Russ Saunders,
Yeah.
or do you want to come off a screen, you might not touch the basketball, and you're going to have a guy in your face, whatever. So I wasn't entirely against it. What it did do was take away the option of a quick two,
Mm.
but then you didn't have another timeout anyway. So, you get a quick two and you commit a foul, you might only have 4 seconds to get up the court
Mm.
on a miss, and then you're back in the same situation. So I wasn't against it.
It's easier on the baseline. It's easier to get it to the play you want to get it to.
Absolutely. And the natural figment of the defense, figment, sorry, it's the opposite of disfigurement, but I don't know what the word is. But the natural God knows. Anyway, is to be back on your heels if someone's
Yeah.
coming at you.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know. And to be fair, they got a little screen. He got set. He made that. He had that 2 foot kind of shot that he made at Leicester on Sunday.
Mm.
But he didn't have the legs. Just
No,
short.
no, it fell
Right.
short.
So yeah, it was. They got a good shot. They can't compete. They wouldn't have got
No.
better than that.
Coro 23 points, Long 17, Defoe 16. You mentioned his plus 17 on the old plus minus.
That comes. We can see this more coming as games get more important. People who understand the value of games in this
Mm,
league is important because rookies don't. Whatever you think they say they do, they don't. They don't understand the substance until they've seen a cup final happen and think, oh, we could have been in that.
mm.
They don't understand that losing a
Yeah,
cup
yeah,
game is losing a cup game.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and you try.
It
And I
was,
remember,
it was interesting because I think Mark kind of nodded to that in his answer to me in the pre-game interview when I said something along the lines of, "Given you got knocked out on Friday, does this take on more importance?" And he
yeah,
was like, "I knew the importance on Friday."
yeah, but I'm not sure they did. And I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, when we used to prepare, I'm sure he did as well. We watched finals.
yeah,
I show you guys the finals. So this is what we're
yeah,
looking for.
yeah,
You would really, it's really try and kind of plug it into their brains.
mm,
This is not just another routine game. And with Caledonia, coming off a couple of losses, being under pressure, being down players, it was an absolute trap game.
mm,
And they trapped them. They got them good and proper. Old school trap game.
mm. Dunbar, 4 of 6 threes for 26 points. Wilson Frame, 4 of 9 threes for 17 points. Kane, 4 of 9 threes for 17 points. They were 16 of 32 from three and 15 of 30 from two.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, giving
Mm,
up 16 threes to that team who is basically shooting any shot that you can shoot.
mm,
You've already referenced two of the more
mm,
egregious ones. To give up 16 makes is just dire, deficient
mm,
defense. And I'm not being miserable to Caledonia. I'm not trying to take away from them. I don't want Caledonia fans thinking I'm salty about the fact that the Eagles lost. It's just that they lost for a reason.
mm,
Caledonia won for a reason because Caledonia are not, or should not, are not, and it's no criticism of anybody there, anywhere near. They're anywhere near Newcastle at the moment. They are
mm,
not. They are not anywhere where Newcastle should be. Newcastle have had 20 games together. They should
mm,
know each other. They've got talent. They've got depth. They've got length. Caledonia have had 3 games together. They've got guys who've just come over who don't really know each other. They're playing players down. That is not a game that they should win.
mm,
That they should be allowed to win. In 3 months, in 3 weeks' time, a month's time,
mm,
different maybe, because at that point the playing field is more even. But in reality, Caledonia started like 25 yards behind in the 100-meter race and
mm,
won.
mm,
You know, and I did worry for them for the Sunday though, because after the interview I did with Robbie Pears at the end, he had to turn around and tell Malik Dunbar and Jared Wilson for him to stop dancing on the court. Like, it's like, that's one game. What are you doing? Whatever. The Eagles
yeah,
got ahead, you're doing all little jigs and all that type of stuff.
yeah, yeah,
And I did think to myself, they got a shot coming.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
good now, but sadly, before I could get to bet 365, it would prove that I would be right. But no, great win for Caledonia. Awful, awful loss for Newcastle, really, in
Yeah.
the circumstances.
Let's just touch on the cup game on Saturday. Hemel Storm 73, Manchester Basketball 93. Darren Nelson Henry and Joe Belak, guys who've been in the LBBL before. Leicester at home in the next round. I'm sure that was a big incentive for those two. Obviously, coached by Mark Clark, undefeated, top of the table, loads of NBL experience in the team as well. This was, when the draw was made, probably the most likely upset of the lot. And Hemel led early, 17-10 after 4.5 minutes. And they were up 9, 3 minutes from half time and down 15, 5 minutes into the third quarter. A 30-6 run by Manchester, and
Yeah,
that was the game.
the Manchester team at the time of the draw wasn't the same Manchester
No,
team that.
no,
Yeah,
that was
that's
kind of the.
that's the difference. And ultimately, you got 7 paid professional imports
Mm,
effectively against Hemel, who've got, I assume, two.
mm,
Um, it's just a battle. I mean, the 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, but ultimately, you cannot go score for score with an SLB team if
mm,
you're an NBL team. I would live with that. You might be able to stop them if you've got the right mentality, defensive, but you can't go score for them.
mm,
And I noticed this, what was it? It was 28, 25 at the end of the first, something like that.
yeah.
It was a scoring race, and the Manchester guys are just going to get too much size, too much athleticism, unfortunately.
Mm,
And obviously I'm saying all that without seeing the game, so
yeah, yeah.
but it just reeks of that. Too much shot making.
Matt Ellis, 18 points, 14 rebounds. Nelson Henry, 14 points. Trent Monkman, 14 points. KO, 32. Madut, 17. Mitchell, 14.
32, yeah. And Kale's a scorer, you see. So if you don't match up with him and you don't have somebody there who's focused on him all the time, if you just treat him like he's another guy, he is a rhythm scorer who will
Did
drop.
I say 32? Because it's
Yeah,
22 if I said
22.
32.
You know,
Yeah.
so he's a guy, he only played like 23 minutes or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he's just going to drop in 7 or 8 or something like that. He's just going to drop shot after shot if you don't guard him.
Let's come to Sunday. Manchester Basketball 106, Cheshire Phoenix 86. Knicks have signed Bobby Planitus.
When you
Uh,
just, yeah.
I'm assuming he's not registered yet because I saw pictures of him warming up before the game, but
Mm.
he wasn't playing. Austin was back, but off the bench. Greg Wild was starting, but didn't play many minutes. White and Wild hitting threes early on. Mitchell and FAJ at the other end scoring in 14-12 midway through the opening quarter.
Yeah, Kristen's a miss.
Hmm.
Kristen, I mean, Teague they've been playing kind of on and off with, but without without those two guys, and with Austin at my guess being about 75% in that
Hmm.
game, I didn't think he was. He had a little bit of his explosion, but he didn't have, he didn't have his absolute manic kind of go
Hmm.
crack type of mentality. They're just down bodies, and the different and Ulf was impactful, played very well, had 13 rebounds, did his job, but he changes everything that they do.
Hmm.
They are a different team with Ulf and Eitel Rock than they were with Kristen uh,
Teague.
and Teague. And what that means is they become a little bit more one-dimensional in relation to shot creation, and that shot creation is Cam Holden.
Hmm.
At times you had that kind of thing where Austin was because he's I don't think he was 100%. He wasn't handling the ball as much in this game as he had been coming off the bench, which meant that a lot of it was Holden, a very Holden centric, Holden in the post, um, all sorts of stuff. And I just thought they ran out of gas with that,
Hmm.
and Cam Holden did everything he could and scored the basketball um, well throughout the basketball game. But Manchester have got a start on five now, which has gelled, no question. Effigy helps them because he is the energy and unselfishness that you never got from Moore.
Hmm.
Moore had energy, but it was a lot of it was about Moore. The light shone on him and
Hmm.
was pulled on him from every direction, which makes the guys who got the basketball just a little bit more resentful at times.
Hmm.
And he was too much of the show.
Hmm.
And Effigy is a bit different. And Effigy and Del Pesh are just the hard workers, and they need hard workers because their rebounding has been dire this season.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so that starting five scored 21 points in 5 minutes. Then when the subs came in, they hardly scored
Hmm.
because that unit isn't where it was. But the starting five was massively comfortable, I thought.
Well, they led by 9. Cheshire got it back level. It was a 3-point game where Skylar White hit a three on the opening play of the third quarter. And then Manchester had 7 in a row to lead by 10 and then blew the game open at the end of the quarter with a flurry of threes and they were
Yeah, I mean the
18
the
ahead.
fundamental kind of message line watermark running through this game was that neither team was overly committed to defending the 3-point
Mm,
line.
no.
Manchester ended up with 17. The amount of clear looks Skylar White got told you a little bit about
Yeah, yeah.
the Manchester's defense as well. But
Literally the
Cheshire,
first play of the first half and the first play of the
the
second half,
third
and you
quarter.
can't believe that Callum Jones hasn't said we need to watch
You,
him.
mean, you just need to, but he's matching up with Effigy, who's never
Mm,
done that before,
yeah.
and he's probably thinking I've got to be solid and all this stuff and stay in the middle. But you have to game plan differently. So I didn't think there was a tremendous. I thought it was two teams just playing. I didn't think there was a tremendous amount of game planning. Cheshire really couldn't game plan. They didn't have the bodies. They're playing effectively. Ulf is the seventh guy because Wild played a little bit. Hudson didn't play. Ulf is the seventh guy, so Scott Grace and Ulf off the bench, but everybody else is having to play big minutes. And the difficulty they have is that outside of Holden, it's like, well, okay, who is, and maybe a little bit of Scott Grayson, who is going to really create shots for somebody else? Now, what Manchester did a reasonable job of on Holden was not doubling on him in the post, and he made some tough shots in the post.
Mm,
But they did put Mitchell on Holden, and Mitchell's 6'7", which I
mm,
thought was an interesting tweak because normally Holden's guarded by a little guy and takes him down. This time they put Mitchell or KO on him, and they kind of matched up around the perimeter. But he's still a talented scorer. But if Cameron Holden's having to score the ball in the post, then multiple times, and I don't think Cheshire are going to win, not with that roster. not going to win much.
Mm,
Because it's not getting the ball around the perimeter. Other guys aren't getting the touches or the good looks. And on top of that, they got to defend better. They can't give up 106.
mm,
The DNA isn't as good as it needs to be defensively because last year you have to remember they had Rideau, who was an excellent defender insofar as getting his hand on the ball. He'd make 4 or 5 plays in the game just out of competitiveness. And Rai, who was a very solid positional defender as well. And I don't think they've quite got that stability at the moment. They've got a lot of reaches.
mm. And they just, I mean, I think the last few games they've given up 100 plus, haven't they, every game? So
Yeah.
it's tough to win like
So
that.
So yeah, I mean it's fine if that's going to be your identity. You can outscore teams. That is fine. You're not going to be able to do it when you're down 3 bodies
Yeah, yeah,
or two
yeah,
bodies, 2.5 bodies if Austin's not there, and the 2 Americans down as well.
yeah,
So and one of them being Christian, who was a threat to go for 25 any game
yeah,
on minimal touches, and would create offense himself off the fast break.
yeah, yeah.
So they are big losses. Manchester are kind of rounding. They're rounding into a group which seems to kind of semi-like each other, and they've got a lot of talent. I'm still
Mm,
suspicious of whether or not it will withstand teams who play proper defense against them, or whether they'll get into kind of, chucking up shots without moving the ball as much. But in this game, they didn't really need to. They could get to where they needed to get to on the first point of attack.
mm.
Um, so there we are.
Mid up 25.7 assists. Ashton Langford 19 points, 12 assists. Mitchell 19 points, 8 rebounds. KO 19 points, 17 of 33 from 3-point range.
And of course, as soon as you find out that Mitchell's mum's there, then that's going to be a win for Manchester because it's the
Yeah,
nearest thing in the world. I think a few years ago we put together a schedule to make sure all the parents didn't
everybody's mum.
didn't come on the same game. They all
Yeah.
came in alternate games so we could get them when we needed them. It doesn't matter. It's crazy. The things that you don't know about. Girlfriend breaks up, parents arriving. My God, flights home booked. It can really make a difference.
Yeah, yeah, because of course this is the weekend where you can sometimes, if you've got no game next week, see guys go for a week, and they all know where they're flying from at 8 p.m. after the game.
Absolutely.
Holden 26.7 assists, White 22.6 of 10 threes, and Atwood 12.
Yeah.
Uh, Caledonia Gladiators 53, London Lions 84. That is the equal lowest score that Caledonia have had uh, in a game they've lost ever, basically. They
Apart from the
lost
game
to,
they won, of course, the game that we shall not talk about.
yeah, thou shalt not talk about. They had a 53 against Brighton when Nick Nurse was coaching, and there was also something about the 18 points, but I've forgotten what that was. But it's on my Twitter feed if you're
Yeah,
interested.
second
They had
lowest, I think you said.
18 points at halftime. Kane was out. Whelan back into the starters, so they only had 8 players and only 6 minutes for Hughes. So basically, 7. This weekend makes me feel like Caledonia have got the biggest gap between floor and ceiling in the league.
Floor is definitely lower than anybody else.
Yeah,
Ceiling, I'm suspicious about.
yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether we might not have seen the
But
ceiling of what
winning
we've got
away
now.
at Newcastle is a reasonable ceiling.
Oh yeah, it is. It's a reasonable ceiling in relation
Yeah,
to the win.
yeah, yeah.
I'm not sure how much credit,
I guess kind
the
of my
credit
point
debit. I'm
is
not
if
sure how
the,
much credit goes to Caledonia
yeah,
and how
yeah.
much debit goes to
I guess
Newcastle.
my point is if they can go 16 for 32 in a game, they're going to be reasonably fun to watch. I'm not convinced how often they're going to go 16 of 32 versus how often they're going to score 50, maybe not 53, but a low number.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think losing Kane helped them. Um,
Help them.
it helped London
Yeah.
because it meant that London had no opportunity. Um, Kane is the one guy who can create shot for himself and others.
Hmm.
Dunbar creates for himself. Wilson Frame is better off creating for himself. They have the video as well. I think when Kane comes back, they will be better. Their floor will be higher.
Mm,
I don't know how much you can win playing the way they play.
mm,
Bottom line, when teams um, when teams have the advantage what that London had of the video.
mm.
They have the video from Newcastle. They see what they're trying to do. They put all these long defenders out, and they challenge every shot. They don't give open. They don't give open threes. They bait. Malik Dunbar's a solid player, but he isn't a shot. He isn't a guy I'm going to give the ball to 20 times a game to score the ball. Not if the defense is focusing on him. And I think that's kind of where they were at from Friday night. They had nothing else coming in relation to assistance. They're desperate for a Dubose type guy who's gone to Manchester, and they um, fundamentally just fell apart in this game.
Mm. Well, it went from 7-5 after 4 minutes to 12-29 after 14 minutes, and then got worse.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And then Wilson Frame didn't come out for the second half either. You can't play London 1-on-5.
Mm.
You can't. There has to be a semblance of structure and the ball has to move. It's the type of game you need Faro for. You
Mm.
didn't need Faro for the Newcastle game because they were playing a certain way and Newcastle were letting them play a certain way. Against London, the ball had to go inside a little bit. They had to throw the ball in there. They had to kind of take on the physical challenge. Instead, it just basically, offensively, they just kept doing what they had been doing with probably a little bit less focus from than they had on the Friday night against far superior defenders.
Mm.
And London just picked them apart. And they moved the ball, and London were together. London had all the same advantages Newcastle had, yeah, but London took advantage of them. And the one advantage London had that Newcastle didn't have was the videotape.
Mm.
And so I'm fearful for Caledonia. I'm probably more fearful actually after this weekend than I was before this weekend, because if that is their ceiling, that win at Newcastle, I know how bad I think Newcastle were on Friday night. And Newcastle still scored 56 points in the second half and probably should have won.
Mm.
And Caledonia made 16 threes, 16 of 32 threes in that game. And it was a toss-up game at the end.
Mm.
Now, if you're making 16 of 32 threes and it's a toss-up game at the end, and there are no gimmies in this league. So, you say winning at Newcastle isn't bad. Yeah, but, at the moment you probably put Newcastle and Bristol kind of in a little bit below London and Sheffield, I think, just on what you see, on what I'm seeing. Certainly, um, Newcastle certainly still a point guard down, quite obviously. Um, then, I would just fear for them. I just don't, I may be wrong, but I don't see that shot selection as sustainable
No.
against teams who are ready for it. They're going to have to develop some other stuff fairly quickly.
Whelan 14 points, Barnes 13 points and 8 rebounds, Dunbar 10. Happy Christmas, Caledonia fans, by the way, from Dave. Rye 7 of 8. Ogmanay's coming. Rye 7 of 8 for 16 points, 7 assists. Hadzabegovic 6 of 7 for 13 points. So what's that? 13 of 15 for 29 points. Not
It
bad.
also doesn't
Brisker and
speak.
Flood 11.
It doesn't speak too kindly of the various changes Caledonia made, which was that the last game Luis Riera coach was beating London by 15.
Mm.
And the first game 3 weeks later, a new team, Robbie's in charge, and they lost by 35.
Mm.
And of course, part of that is that London remembered losing by 15, and that wasn't going to happen again.
Mm. Let's go to the drama at the end. Leicester Riders 83, Newcastle Eagles 83. Newcastle win 178-174 on aggregate. Neighbour was dressed but didn't play. Defoe didn't play. He was dressed as well. Okoro lights out for Newcastle in the early stages. He had 15 points as they led 22-11 in the first quarter.
Yeah, well, obviously I've been on the Okoro wagon for quite a while. And he's again not a rookie, and he'll have been hurting because he had that shot on Friday night.
Mm.
And the way players are, and the way that I see what I've seen of him this year, and the way he speaks, that will have hit him hard because that was his shot, and he was there to make it, and he would have expected to make that shot, even if whether he's got excuses or not. So he came out with a focus,
Mm.
which belied anybody else. He was like, okay, we ain't losing this game. And when he makes his three early, he's a very difficult player to guard, which happened in this game. I mean, there's so many subplots about this game, though. I mean, it's the one thing about these kind of two-legged bun fests is that um, it really reveals a lot of character, a lot of experience level within players.
Mm.
You know, you see who's rising to it and who's melting down. You know, I thought firstly, um, this was the other thing was this was Newcastle's game to adjust because of the
Yeah,
league game in the middle,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So Leicester are feeling good going into it because they've um, dive bombed Newcastle by 25 last week and looked like they were playing different sports, you know. And Newcastle, and that gives Stutel all the problems in relation to what am I going to adjust, what am I going to change to. It doesn't give Paternoster all the problems. He's
Mm.
content with the way that they're playing. And the adjustment generally gives the team that is adjusting the advantage because Leicester have to respond to Newcastle's adjustments.
Mm.
And adjustment's a very generic word, but what it means in real terms is that Cole Long starts a game and Cole
Yeah.
Long guards Zach Jackson,
Mm.
right? Josh Ward-Hibbett starts a game and Josh Ward-Hibbett guards Jalen Hunter, right? So that's Alan Aiken's not starting the game. That's
Spencer.
Spencer not starting the game. Now, why do they do that? They do that because it's all about defense. And Long, who's played on the perimeter for most of his career in Europe, is what we would regard as a pretty straightforward format. He
Mm.
played a lot of three in Sweden and in Norway. Um, is actually probably uniquely fitted to guarding Jackson because he is both nimble of foot, but a little bit longer than the normal guys that Zach Jackson plays against.
Mm.
And you know that Zach Jackson's got that little kind of step back move
Mm.
where he likes to set you up and step back, which sets up his jump shot. And from that, if somebody overreacts to it, he hesitates, dribbles, gets to the middle, shoots his floater. He's
Mm.
very, very considered, very, very organized in his offense. Cole Long's extra length changed that because it just impacts the distance he has to be away when he's challenging the shot. So that was a big. And the second thing that Newcastle got killed with, obviously, was the Hunter Thompson screen roll stuff.
Mm.
Now, by putting Ward-Hibbett on Hunter, one, that advantages Newcastle because it gives Hunter more size to deal with, but it also means that they can switch more easily if they have to, because they're not giving up Spencer with on Thompson at the rim or a
Yeah.
Coral on
Yeah.
Thompson at the rim.
Yeah.
And Ward-Hibbett can go down there and can, at the very least, battle with a little bit of size
Mm.
and length to try and interrupt the kind of the passing. So in the second game, there was not one time did Hunter get one of those passes to Thompson that he's been getting the whole season,
Mm.
where he picked the basketball up, he'd maybe do a little fake. Thompson would relocate because they don't throw the ball to Thompson as he's rolling. They throw the ball to Thompson when he gets there. He catches it around the rim, goes up and dunks it.
Mm.
And Newcastle were able to take that away because of that adjustment. So that unsettles Leicester a little bit because that's being their bread and butter, right? And defensively, um, to win, it's on somebody else's gym in a semi-final, you have to unsettle them. You
Mm.
can't be in a scoring race. You're going to lose. They're going to get more comfortable than you are. And even though Newcastle couldn't score early, apart from Okoro, so Okoro carried them, he had like 15 of their first 20 points. Nobody else could score. Their defense and the adjustments that were made in relation to defense set the tone for that game.
Mm.
And um, and so when we talk about coaching moves, now if there's another game, Rob will be adjusting to that.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But the other game ain't going to happen. Ain't going to be a semi-final,
No.
And Mark would not have made that adjustment after the first cup game, first trophy game,
No.
because that was a game whereby the Eagles had won by 4. You come
Mm.
in and thinking, oh, we're good the way we're at, which is they didn't make it. Leicester made an adjustment last week. Leicester crowned them 20 by
Mm.
25. So that was the first thing. The game, yeah, it was relatively scrappy, but it was what it was meant to be. It was a semi-final,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and it was. I'm beginning to get a bit jaundiced, but I end up kind of looking for the mistake. I'm looking for all the
Mm.
mistakes, all the things that,
We've got time.
that
We've
going
got
on.
time for that. Eagles stayed in front, but threes from Abercrombie and Hunt had it down to 36-37 at halftime. I thought Leicester were fortunate to be down one at halftime.
Yeah,
Uh,
they were, but the last 3 minutes they played, they got back into it. And what happened was Newcastle's matchups got a bit discombobulated, and he ended up with Alan Aikens guarding Abercrombie, and Alan Aikens doesn't guard the perimeter shooters as well as he guards the inside. So
mm.
Alan Aikens gave up two threes to Abercrombie off one pass.
Mm.
And you can't do that. You can't be giving him any space at all. When I say one pass, what that means is the initial pass from the point guard. comes to him at the top of the key, and Alan Akins is overhelping in the paint.
Mhm.
And even though he gets a hand up, he's not where he needs to be. Abercrombie's too good a shooter, he knocks it down. So that was kind of two threes that they gave up. Then Thompson got going a little bit inside as well. So and Newcastle didn't score the ball at all very well.
Mm.
I mean, they missed layups as well, for a while. So it was their tempo of the game, but it was what it was meant to be, I thought, at the half.
Leicester took their first lead on the night on a Johnson three early in the second half, 43-42. Ward Hibbett then scored the next 13 points for Newcastle, pushed it back out to 10, 45-55. And to be honest with you, I thought that was the decisive play of the game. I thought that was the bit where they took it away. We're going to get into all of the stuff at the
No, I
end
thought it was
that
actually
should
it was the
never have
next.
happened.
I thought it was the last 2 minutes of the third. Actually, beyond that, I thought Ward Hibbert gave them a bit of breathing space. And Newcastle have done this all season. They've just had a guy who'll just go and score 10 points.
Mm,
They're a weird kind of team like that. None you wouldn't think any of them other than Akara are pure scorers, but then they'll just go and score like drop 7 or 8 points in a row, and then they'll go to somebody else and he'll do it, and But yeah, I mean, Waterbitt's been the leader of that team the whole season.
mm,
He's been exceptional, and he's in the bigger the game, the more minutes he's going to play. So he's going to
mm,
start, guard the point guard, and um, and make plays and times and make threes, and he's probably enjoying it because he's been at London where he's been a bit part, a
mm,
valued bit part, and a very good team. And now it's almost like it's now kind of morphed into his team. So yeah, he made plays, but the defense was the difference because he's making plays off Leicester misses. You know,
mm. So they were
I
18
thought.
up.
Sorry, I thought the key to it. If you're telling me the point where
Yeah,
I thought it was done, I thought it was done when we had our first rookie crack when Hunter cracked and got his technical.
I thought that was a bit unlucky, if
No,
I'm
no,
honest with
no.
you.
I'll tell you what happened. What happened was this: he didn't get a foul call on a 3-point shot, so he
Yeah,
wasn't happy.
yeah,
The game, he's not in any form of rhythm
yeah.
with the game. He's like
No, no, I saw
one shot
it,
the
and
whole game.
I saw what he
And
said. I
oh,
heard
right,
what he
okay.
said.
But then what
I didn't
happened
think it was
is
worth a technical.
he runs into a screen. Delpech
Mm,
nails him with a screen.
yeah,
Then Newcastle make a shot, and Thompson steps over the line, and
yeah,
he's kind of been, basically Ward Hibbert's been denying him relatively physically, but the refs weren't shy of blowing the whistle in the game, so
yeah.
I'm sure they'd have blown it if
I,
they'd seen what they thought.
my take on it
But
is, if that's a technical, what Okoro does at the end of the game is a technical, and
Knight,
they didn't call a technical on Okoro at the end of the game.
you mean Knight?
Partly, Knight, sorry, yeah, what
Yeah,
Knight did at the
okay.
end of the game
I didn't see that on the
is
camera.
he throws the
Um,
ball away,
yeah,
and then he's drawing at the referee, and it's
no,
like, to me, I don't
that's
want a
fair.
technical called on Knight at the end of the game in that situation, because it's the end of the game in that situation, and it's potentially shifts the way the game finishes by calling a T. But I
Here's
don't think you can call the T on
Yeah.
Hunter for
Well,
what
here's
he
the
said.
thing. Here's the thing, though. I didn't. Here's the thing, though. When you look at the back camera of that play, when Thompson steps on the court, Hunter is not asking for the basketball. He's turned his back on the basketball because there's been a bit of scruffiness or something like that.
Mm.
His mind, I say, maybe the technical is not the cracking, but at that point, his mind as a rookie needed refocus, and Rob took him out straight away
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
because Rob recognized it as
yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So that he needed that break. He was what's the word? He was ticking. That's the phrase.
yeah, yeah,
Now, the reason that's relevant is because he's not been ticking the whole season.
yeah.
He's not shown that. He's at a comfort level. He's been probably the best point guard in the league, maybe if not the best, certainly the best in the best three. He's ran that team, everything.
Mm.
He's had his 19 and 11 or his 15 and 8. He's making shots. He's doing all that stuff. This was the first game, the big game for the rookie, who's got a lot on his shoulders. When suddenly they're down 11 on the home court and down
Mm.
4 more, and 4 more on top of that, piling the pressure on.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So that's the first chink when Rob has to take him out
yeah,
because he
yeah.
realizes that's so
And he
whether
had
it's
to
a
take
technical
him
or
out.
not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he
Whether it's
had to
technical
take
or
him
not.
out. You're right.
That's the first chink, they came with
Yeah,
that turnover.
yeah,
And that's when I thought, oh, hang on a minute, Newcastle have a shot here because
yeah,
then it just changes the way Leicester are and they're reaching for lineups. Then Alan Akins came in, made a couple of shots at the end of the quarter and a Coro and James. But more than anything, they kept playing their defense and Leicester were a little bit befuddled
yeah,
and we're kind of stuck between what we've been doing all season
yeah,
and what we need to do now.
yeah, yeah,
It wasn't
yeah.
until Wright came in,
So,
which
so
changed
it's
the whole
yeah,
vibe of
it's
the game because he went away from what they've been doing all
yeah.
season.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I
It's
mean?
it's 18 points Newcastle's lead with a few ticks left in the third quarter, 22 on aggregate.
Mm.
And to all intents and purposes, the tie is over, or at least
Not
it
in that
should have been.
gym. Not
It
in that
should have
gym.
been. The
No, I
ghost
know what
of
you're saying, but not in that
Bernardini
gym,
came
Dan.
back to us.
I've been
But
senior
Ethan
games in that gym.
Wright basically dragged Leicester back into it with just play after play, really, and they got it back to 71 75.
Yeah, I mean it was 8 minutes because the first 2 minutes of the fourth quarter was a
Yeah,
non-event. He scored
yeah,
the ball, so it was about. I think Leicester scored 27 points last 6.5 minutes of this game.
yeah,
And of course, the reason is that they started playing faster,
yeah.
and so this is where they make their adjustment, and it's an adjustment out of necessity.
Mm,
It's not an adjustment of anything. We're down by 20. We're just, we'll stuff it. We've got nothing to lose. We're going to play
yeah,
free. We're going to attack. And now the opposition are meant to adjust to that, but
mm,
necessary players don't, not quickly enough. And by the time it happened, an 8 point run has happened, then a daft turnover has happened,
mm,
and then you haven't got a true point guard really who's
mm.
going to go and take control of the game.
And the other
Throw it to
thing
Trey Moore. You can't do that.
The other thing that didn't help them was and we haven't even got to this
And they're in
point in
foul
the
trouble as
game.
well. Sorry.
They had foul trouble, but also Mark had to call some early timeouts, and those timeouts that he called were aggregate timeouts. They
Yeah.
weren't 40-minute timeouts. If that was a league game, there is no way. Certainly maybe
One
the
in the
first
third
one he
quarter.
would, but the second one he would never have called
Oh,
because
actually, I'll go the other way. The first one he wouldn't have. The second one he would have. The
okay,
second one was in the fourth quarter where they hadn't scored for 3 minutes and
yeah.
they were playing not to lose. The first one was after Ethan Wright made a three with two
Made it
minutes to
three
go
and
in
he
the
got it
third
to
quarter.
10 or something or other.
And
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you wouldn't have called
You
that. You're
wouldn't
right,
have called that
absolutely.
timeout,
It was
but
it was still the right thing to do.
it was completely in aggregate basketball the right thing to do. The
Absolutely.
problem is that you would save it in a 40-minute game
But then panic at the
and
end.
he needed another timeout
Yeah.
with about 3 minutes to go, 2.5 minutes to go or something. But he
Yeah.
couldn't call one because he only had one left, and therefore he might need one when
At
he
the end.
really needs it at the end, sort of thing.
We had yeah, I mean, we had the full. I mean, firstly, as I said, Newcastle in foul trouble, so Wright saw that and Wright was able to attack. Um, we had literally the full gamut of stuff you don't do at the end
Mm,
of a game from Newcastle.
mm.
Other than the fact that Okoro just kept scoring, they kept scoring, which normally it's the scoring which is hard because you
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
tighten the trend. In this game,
Let's go through it. Let's go through it because I've got it
well,
written down. So Okoro makes two scores. So it's 79 70 72 79 142 to go. Again, I at that point is like, this is over now. You're not coming back from 11 down in 100 seconds.
let's do
Uh,
that.
Not very often though.
I'll tell you that, Dan. Right? Okay, Connor Washington, 2000 and ooh, 2013-14.
Okay.
This was a game. This was after they'd beaten us in the cup final, and then we beat Leicester 3 times in overtime, I think, in the same season. And Newcastle were up 11 at Sports Central with a minute 30 to go. And we ended up tying on Connor's three when Paul goes, didn't realise we should be guarding him when we're up three with 3 seconds to go.
There are still people 10 years later, go back to Surrey, who forget to guard Connor Washington on
Yeah,
that
well,
awful
whatever.
day.
I mean but that was young Connor.
Yeah, yeah.
So Connor, he wasn't quite
Yeah,
the,
yeah, yeah.
he was.
I'll almost forgive Paul Gores at that point. I'm not
Well, no,
forgiving Surrey
I'd
on
never. I wouldn't.
Saturday.
He's 40 feet inside the 3 point line when we're up by three, for Christ's sake.
Yeah,
Anyway, but we'd missed a couple of foul shots in that
mm,
game, and they came back, and they
yeah,
just never quit. You
yeah,
know. And we beat them in overtime in that game because I think we were down six in overtime. Then made some plays at the end. Darius made a 15-foot jumper. Um, but it can happen. So
yeah.
11, no, 15's enough. 11's not, and
Yeah.
especially in the helter skelter of that nonsense.
And this was helter skelter. Let's go through it. 132 to go. Wright misses a three, but Abercrombie with the rebound and underneath puts it back in. 74-75. 119 to go. Wright and Jackson between them force a turnover and run it back. Was it a Coro turned the ball over?
Cora turned the ball over,
Yeah,
yeah, because they pressured him a little bit, and it was a proper turnover. Again, no point guard to kind of, again, it's what I talk about Cora being the
yeah,
workhorse and the dynamo.
yeah, yeah,
It's a very
yeah,
difficult job to do. Of course, before this, just before we've got to all this, you've got the unsportsmanlike foul in transition from long.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, which doesn't help with 3 minutes to go. You've
No.
got the push off, the offensive push off from Knight.
Oh, we haven't got there yet.
Have we
That's
not? Oh,
to
we haven't
come.
got to
Yeah,
that
yeah,
yet. I
yeah,
thought,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And you've got a couple. You had a couple of other. You've got a couple of other lunatic turnovers as well.
There's still enough. There's still enough madness to
All
go
right.
that I
Okay.
didn't need to write all of those, everything down. So Jackson is fouled. He makes two free throws. 119 to go. 76-79. 114 to go. Now we get to the night push off. His fifth foul, and a Leicester ball. And as I say, in real time, he walked the line of a technical, but he stayed
Yeah,
the right
yeah, I
side.
get that. I thought I'll be honest, I'm putting my specs on this one. I thought he was a little bit unlucky. I
You
thought
know
it was
what?
right that
I thought there was enough contact from right to call a
yeah,
defensive foul,
I was,
but when you
yeah,
don't call the
well, that's
defensive
right.
foul, the extension of the arm is an
Well, and we
offensive
see, and this
foul.
is the point about being a point guard, because if he was a point guard, all he
Mm.
would have done was kept dribbling with his left hand, and he'd have been in the
Head
crowd.
back. Yeah.
He'd have been in the crowd. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
he'd have been riding that contact on his left hand all
Yeah.
the way down, and probably another half a second he gets the call.
Yeah.
Yeah, but because he's not a true point guard, he's not. That's not what he's been. He can handle, but
Yeah.
ultimately, right's quicker. Right is there. He tried to cross back over to his right, which meant that he pushed off. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
again, it's that kind of gap. Cora's turned the ball over, and then Knight's turned the ball over. How are you going to get the ball over half court?
And they were discombobulated and they were talking to the ref and they were not quite paying attention. And Wright sneaks underneath for an open score, 78
That was yeah,
79.
that was Del Petros hugging Thompson on the heart
Mm.
on the foul line when he should have been guarding the basket. He didn't need to be guarding
But there
Thompson.
was also something where I think Okoro was talking to the referee and he walked back in, and then him and I think it was Ward Hibbett was like pushing, you go there, I'll go here.
Yeah.
And then he got stuck trying to come back towards right, I think it was.
Right. Well,
But
there was one earlier on like that where Wright got a three out of nothing when they were arguing about walking on the
yeah,
baseline.
yeah, there was.
I mean that as well. Let's throw that
Yeah.
one in the mix.
Where are we? Right underneath. So it's 79, 78, 79. So 5 points on aggregate. Okoro, really tough finish, 49.3 seconds. I think it was over Thompson as well
Yeah.
on the thing. Great,
Kind of this
great
little
finish.
float there. He's got this float there
Yeah,
going to his left where he finishes with his right hand. You think, how do you make that?
yeah,
But he makes all these floating shots just so often.
yeah. So it's 78, 70, 78, 81. 40.9 seconds to go. Zach Jackson with just that jab step that seems to create a lot of space for him opens up the three, 81, 81.
Yeah, that's it. Don't go away.
Yeah. Uh, and then on the inbound, 39.8 seconds, right with an unbelievable play, knocks it loose, falling out of bounds, throws it off a Coro, and it's a Leicester ball, and somehow they've got it back.
Yeah, but the time that you meant to run the baseline.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, Wright was
Yeah, because actually there was the baseline error
yeah,
as well. I'd forgotten
the
about
baseline
that.
error area,
Yeah,
and the fact they were still wondering about it when Wright made a three.
yeah,
Um, but um, look, just cutting through all of this, Wright's not a rookie. Wright played in Romania last year. Wright understood what was going on in this game, and he
mm,
did himself a hell of a lot of credit in this game
mm,
because he showed that he's kind of the you run past Hunter and Thompson, then you
yeah,
run past Jackson, and he's not starting, and you got to guard
yeah,
Abercrombie, and then suddenly it's okay. What semi-finals do is they stretch out all your options.
yeah, yeah,
So what have you got? And that it was right, and he stepped up to it, and he just made plays, and he made
yeah.
plays at both ends,
It
and he
was,
made a sneaky, and he had yet another of his sneaky blocks at Surrey on Friday night.
yeah, yeah.
And so there's a lot to like about him, and I think he was probably a little bit
It was a
belted.
Bernardini style fourth quarter, I
It
thought.
was, yeah,
It was
yeah,
one of them.
absolutely.
He's not Tyler Bernardini, but Tyler Bernardini had games like that in the
Yeah.
fourth quarter where he just made every play both ways.
Yeah, and it was I think he was a little bit sheltered in the starting lineup
Mm.
because he wasn't featured in it, if that makes any sense. Because
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
so many other stuff
yeah.
they do. Coming off the bench, I think going forward, this game's going to do a world of good because he's going to have the green light now, I
Mm.
expect, to play a lot quicker. And when teams play quicker, that speeds up all decision making. And teams are tired and there's pressure on. And I thought that was like a Bird stole the ball play, that
Yeah,
was.
it was. Yeah,
He
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
obviously didn't throw it to DJ for a layup, but
No, he didn't.
even so, Google it, guys. Yeah.
They did throw it to Thompson, and he missed a layup on the
On the
inbound
switch.
play. So now there's 30 seconds to go, and Riders have only committed one foul in the quarter, so they have to make up fouls.
Just
Uh,
on that, even on that Thompson miss happened because it was Ward Hibbert who switched on to him,
mm,
not the smaller guard.
yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and so it was just a little bit tougher for him to finish over him. And obviously, again, he's not he's again he's a rookie. I mean, he's played a lot of games, but he's played very well for them. And he's undoubtedly at this point the best center in the league. But he's still a rookie who's having the ball in his hands with 30
Yeah.
seconds to go in a shot he has to make. You know, and if you're
Yeah.
Newcastle, you like those odds.
So Leicester are committing fouls. There was one on the inbound against Jackson, which in real time I wasn't quite sure whether that was
And
a
Ward Hibbert, yeah.
one shot foul or not.
Well,
But
I think it was
having
after the
watched,
ball was thrown.
yeah, I think watching it back, I don't think it was a one shot foul. I'm not sure he would have got to the ball had he not been fouled.
Mm.
By the way, I don't think it was a
Was he
great
foul? I
pass.
mean, I couldn't see on the angle. I think he
I
was
think he's
too
got a
much.
hand on his waist. I think he's got a
Yeah.
hand on his waist, but
So
I'm
it was an
not sure. I
appropriate flop.
don't think it was a very good pass. No,
No.
I think it was a foul. I think it was a
Yeah.
foul. I just think it was a bad pass.
Yeah.
And had he not fouled,
It
I
might
don't
have
think
been
he would have got the
open.
ball. I think it would have been
Yeah.
a turnover.
Yeah. Well,
But
that's very
but there you go.
feasible.
There we go. Then with 18 seconds to go, well, prior to 18 seconds to go, on the next bit, Newcastle almost lost the ball. There was two of them on the sideline, just about keeping it in. And
Yes.
in the sense of that scramble, Leicester actually
Lost a
got
little
detached
something.
from them and couldn't commit a foul, or
Well, they could have committed foul
forgot to
on
commit a
long.
foul.
They missed the chance to commit a foul on long, and at
Yeah,
that point, that was gone. And you saw Rob on the sideline saying we should have fouled him on
yeah,
camera. So yeah, and Long subsequently missed one of his foul shots on
yeah.
later on. That was probably a mistake from Leicester's
So
perspective.
so they lost I don't know, maybe eight,
Seconds.
9 seconds on that.
Yeah.
And then next time they inbound the ball, 17 seconds, so it's immediate foul. That was the fifth. It sends Long to the line, and as you say, he goes 1 for 2. So it's 81-82, which is a 5 point lead on aggregate. Leicester then almost turned the ball over at the other end, and which time they lost so much time off the clock that by the time Thompson scored, there was only 3.2 seconds to go, and it was 83-82,
Yeah.
and
And the
3.2
advantage was
seconds.
Newcastle being able to set the defense off the foul
Yeah,
shot, obviously.
yeah,
And when you set your defense, and they didn't have Knight on the court, and Knight had been struggling defensively with 4 fouls.
mm,
It actually didn't do them much harm for him to foul out because he was struggling to play with fouls and make defensive plays with fouls. And again, it was good pressure on the shooter. They didn't give up the threes and forced Jackson into a tough one. And Thompson laid it in, but that's kind of it, isn't it?
yeah,
Really,
yeah. At
they get the ball
3.2
down.
seconds with a timeout,
Yeah,
up by 3 on aggregate, only a total complete and utter brain melt can
yeah.
lose you the game. Now they'd shown signs of that
But yeah, I mean,
potentially
yeah, there wasn't
happening,
much left. But he put Spencer in
but
to throw the pass, didn't he?
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
Spencer comes in to throw the pass. He managed to get it into Arne Aikens.
yeah.
Um,
He
uh,
makes the free throw, and then all you have to do is don't foul.
don't
Uh,
just don't be stupid.
yeah,
Yeah, don't be
yeah,
stupid.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great game. I mean, and that is the upside of two-legged basketball
Mm,
because you don't get that ferocity and fierceness. The ferocity of Leicester's comeback of nothing to lose.
mm,
Like that in a best of three, but you could do, but it's less likely. And every play does matter, just as much as that. Pass from Alan Aikens tonight for the three in the corner in the first leg mattered.
mm.
Taking it from 1 to 4, suddenly
Yeah, yeah.
it makes a massive difference. Um, so yeah, so it was great. Yeah, it's probably this is I don't know, maybe a little bit biased, but it's probably a bigger win for Newcastle than it is as a loss for Leicester because I was a little bit in the context of their season going forward.
Mm.
Because if they've been knocked out of both cup competitions this weekend.
Yeah, yeah,
And we're on the back and had to suddenly had a 4 game losing streak,
yeah, yeah,
and then they're
yeah.
coming up against Sheffield and London
Mm,
next couple of games. I'm looking at them thinking, this could be, you're into spiral territory.
mm,
And Leicester, I don't think will spiral. I think that this will be fuel for Leicester. In relation to the other games, I think it'll make Hunter a hell of a lot better going forward. Now he's been subjected to it and he's been through it. Um, and I think it will certainly. I mean, I wouldn't bet against Leicester to win the cup now. I think that game will have toughened them up. And the other interesting thing is, of course, the two teams that got to the final have been the two teams that have been traipsing around Europe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And maybe that kind of togetherness and toughness of having to play all those games has helped them.
Mm,
And maybe they've been a little bit more battle tested and battle hardened than Cheshire and Leicester have.
mm.
You know, and when you talk about the teams, you're not talking about the coaches. You're talking about the players who are going through it for the first time.
Yeah, yeah.
Not talking about the name on the front of the shirt. You're talking about the guys who struggled in the fourth quarter. Cole Long struggled in the fourth quarter. Made daft decisions. He hasn't made bad decisions all season. He's
Mm,
committing a stupid unsportsmanlike foul at half court.
mm.
There was one time he turned to bark at the referee when Ward Hibbert saved the ball.
Yeah,
Ward
yeah.
Hibbert threw the ball straight at him. He's turning talking to the referee.
Yeah.
That is not the person I've seen all season,
Mm,
right? But pressure does funny things. So he's that pressure thing. Yeah. Alan Aiken struggled, a little bit in this game. Hunter struggled in this game. Um, Johnson struggled in this game. These are all people who have not really been subjected to the extra pressures of what goes on.
mm,
Whereas the more experienced guys, and the car was played in the Czech Republic, and obviously Ward Hibbert's seen it, been around there, and Jackson, who came to the party eventually, um, they were more impactful.
mm,
So I thought it was great. I thought it was a great, it really kind of strips down teams' individual players and it builds them up for the future. You talk about Bernardini. We beat Bernardini about 4 times before he beat us.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
each time just added an extra bit layer of desire to him to beat us.
yeah. Mm,
We could see it. Started in 2015, 14, 15, when we won the sweep, and Charles made all the shots in Glasgow, and Tyler committed in sportsmanlike at the end of the game.
mm,
And when Fab did his Achilles. Then the next year we were down 18 in the cup final and came back and won again, and we'd won 26 games in a row, and they still beat us to the league that year.
yeah, yeah,
Despite the fact we won the first games of the season, we didn't win the league because they wouldn't let go.
yeah. Mm,
And the reason they wouldn't let go is because they were desperate, and but Tyler in particular
mm.
was leading to say that we are going to keep with these so and so's every
Yeah,
step of the
yeah,
way.
yeah.
So it got to the trophy final, and eventually
Mm,
they got over the line against us in the trophy final. And once they got over the line against us, they won everything for 2 years.
yeah, yeah.
Basically everything,
Basically,
lost to
yeah,
Sheffield and whatever.
yeah,
But basically they were best team for 2. They became us.
yeah,
But to do that, you have to go through those battles first. You have to go
yeah,
through those disappointments. Um, and I think that's one which some of the Leicester guys will take away and will stew on and will live on and will be better for.
yeah,
Um, but and then, yeah, and again, Mike Okoro's has just gone for 30. He's scored 60 points in 6 quarters. He's gone for
yeah.
34 points in 36 minutes. He's played defense. He's got 6 rebounds. He's made 14 of 21. He's made a ton of tough shots. He played like a champion.
Mm, mm.
And he reminded me of that game, those games that Fletcher had in the
Yeah,
COVID,
yeah, yeah,
in the
yeah,
playoff semi-finals when Gino had just won the MVP.
yeah,
And Ramon decided he didn't like that and went for like 67 points in
yeah.
2 games in Leicester in the semi-final of the playoffs. It was one of those kind of games for Okoro, just outstanding.
Right, 23 points. Thompson, 18 points, 11 rebounds, and 3 blocks. Jackson, 15. Okoro, 34 points and 6 rebounds. Ward Hibbert, 22 points and 9 rebounds.
I think with
James.
Jackson Jackson was like 15 on 13 shots, which isn't
Mm,
his normal number.
no,
And Hunter was what, 1 of 8, 2 of 8, something like that.
I haven't got it written
He
down.
had 5 points, and
Yeah,
but
yeah.
he just wasn't in a rhythm the whole night. And
Mm,
I'd say it's because it's the third time. The
mm,
third time they played him, they found a way to impact him because they looked at all the tape. And this is where the coaching and the preparation comes
mm,
in. They looked at all the tape and found a way. And I think Stuart talked about it before the game in the interview about Hunter and Jackson
mm.
to impact him. And it's easier for Jackson to get out of that. If you remember, Hunter missed a little bunny in the fourth quarter. He was
Yeah,
literally on
yeah.
the rim.
And first
Again,
finishes, yeah.
not it's like what I was saying about Cole Long. It's not a shot he misses.
Mm.
He doesn't miss that. He doesn't miss that. He's been making that play all season, and it's all just kind of character building for the next time.
So let's do the league table before we go.
Oh, by the way, it's Bristol as well now.
Yeah.
Bristol are now the only sweepable team.
Oh yes, indeed. Yeah,
Newcastle
Bristol.
are
The
out.
sweep is on for
So
Bristol.
the sweep is on for Bristol. No pressure, guys.
No pressure below 500 in the league, but there you go. To be fair, they've only played 5 games. London are 7-2 and top the charts at Christmas. Sheffield Sharks
Very
six
good.
and three. Leicester 5-2. Newcastle 4-2. Cheshire 3-4. Surrey 3-5. Bristol 2-3. Manchester 2-5, and Caledonia 1-7. So no ties at all the way through there.
Yeah,
Everybody's in a very little
Manchester are
spot.
upwardly mobile, you would say.
Yeah, yeah,
You would think with that group playing like that. Um, and yeah, I mean, it might shake out a little bit in the next month or so. Um, if you end up when you end up being like 12-2 or 13-3, then you know you've
mm,
got a shot.
yeah, yeah,
But you can get to that. If you have a bunch of teams that are 9-5, then it doesn't make any difference. You just keep
yeah,
playing. But I think we'll see if there's any routine wins. Certainly, I mean, because there's only 9 teams because they play each other 4 times. The competitive games are thick and fast.
yeah,
Every
yeah.
game is competitive.
So I've no idea what we're going to do next week because I think there's a Monday night game next week. Whether we wait to
Really?
that or whether we do something before that, I don't know.
All
It's all
right.
weird over Christmas.
Yeah. Um, well, you have to wait and see, won't you?
Yeah, we will.
They'll have to
Yeah,
wait and see.
we
Yeah, well,
don't
why
have
should
to
we give them too much
advertise things.
information? I mean, I'm not minded to help them. I got no presents.
No,
Got
no,
nothing.
nothing. You can
Nothing.
have another look at my SMB
Yeah,
thing
I
if
know
you
it's
want,
it's great.
Dave.
But to me, it reads BNS. But there you go.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah. So I'm feeling a little bit put up
People
on it.
of Newcastle, do
Hmm.
Dave a solid. Give him
Yeah.
give him give him your leftover roses or something.
No more likely to
Give
give
him
me
the
a solid.
bounties in the
Uh,
celebration that nobody eats or
I don't like
whatever.
bounties. I'm not a coconut fan. No, never mind. But no, yeah, that was a fun week. It was a fun weekend. It was, the best thing about that semi-final, watching it last night, was that I wasn't there. Wasn't on the bench, and I wasn't on the sideline, and I wasn't going through it. And
It was
I remember,
funny.
like,
I was
even to the lovely little point in the first quarter when Stootle and Paternoster got technicals for bitching
yeah,
at
yeah,
each other.
yeah,
And it just took me back, and I was
yeah.
like, I'm really grateful that I'm not having to do all the stuff that Mark and Rob are doing now.
Yeah, there was
So
a moment I was sort of feeling while Siobhan was going over to do the interviews, and Mark was just stood in front of me and he looked at me, and the look on his face spoke 1,000 words of like, what the hell?
I think he would be, I don't think he'd be upset if you described him as a control freak.
Yeah, yeah,
I know certainly
yeah,
Fab wouldn't be.
yeah,
Fab would always regard it as an absolute compliment.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in control. Nobody else. You know, and that fourth quarter was anything was the
yeah,
least controlled
yeah,
nonsense that you
yeah,
could ever see. So to a team that thrives on chaos, to a coach that thrives on chaos, maybe you just shrug your shoulders and walk off.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But he doesn't thrive on chaos. His teams are quite rigid and quite well prepared. And to go through all of that,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
as I say, from the walking along the baseline to the turnovers, the 2 turnovers, getting the ball over half court, to Wright stealing the ball, to the unsportsmanlike foul, to Knight, yeah, yeah, just the whole thing to go
yeah,
through it step after step. It must just drain years off your life, and I'm just
yeah,
delighted it
yeah,
wasn't me.
yeah. It
But
looked
no,
like it had. It
yeah,
looked like it had. That's all I'll say. Yeah. Anyway, on that excitement, we will wish you all a Merry Christmas and we'll see you sometime between now and the New Year, depending on when we decide is the appropriate gap between those games, sort of
yeah.
thing. We'll work it out. But for now, goodbye.
Bye, guys.